Think we'll get started. Got a good number of people online, so welcome everyone to the July 8th meeting of the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. As always, we'll get started with some introductions. So for the folks online, if you could put your name, title, and what organization you're with in the chat, I'll read those out. We'll go around the room first. I'm Ethan Townsend, Transportation Planner with the Capital Region Transportation Council. One of the many things I do here is facilitate our active transportation program, including leading the meetings for this committee.
I'm Erica Schneider. I'm the Policy and Planning Manager at Parks and Trails New York, and I am a guest presenter today to talk about the Empire State Trail Economic Impact Report that we just published. So excited to get into that.
Ivan Vamos, New York Bicycling Coalition.
Scott Miller, Servant of a Plan.
Valerie Dean, New York State DOT Region 1.
Tom Benware, not sure who I'm with. I appreciate the continued notice about the active transportation. Still very interested in helping out with the issues, so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Andrew Benchmar, Rensselaer County.
Linda Bonderheader, Principal Planner in Rensselaer County. We only held a month and a little more to go, 7 weeks, so.
Amy McCain, I'm on the Albany County Planning Board and also an active member of State Colony.
Adam McCarville with the Capital Region Transportation Council.
Awesome. Then online, we have Martin Hull with Capital Region Transportation Council, Charles Wedge with Albany County Department of Health, Ben Luke also with the Albany County Department of Health. And we have a couple other, that's pretty much, we have Christy Shea with the Transportation Council. And then Peter joining from his iPhone. So I think that's everyone we've got. So for folks online, please keep your microphone muted unless you have a comment, at which time feel free to raise your hand on Zoom or just chime in if there's a break and we'll get to you, just so we minimize that background noise. You can have camera on or off if you want. I'm the only one who can see you at this time. When we get to the participant updates, then we'll put you up on the full screen. And then for everyone's reference, this meeting is being streamed to the Capital Region Transportation Council's YouTube page, so that people can watch online or watch the recording afterwards. I'll run through the agenda real quick. We've already done our welcome introductions, so we're right on track. We will have a feature presentation shortly from Erica Schneider about the economic impact of the Empire State Trail report that PTNY just released. Then we'll go into our discussion items. There's one extra discussion item up there that isn't on the physical agendas because I only found out about it yesterday. After which we will do participant updates for everyone, anyone in the room or online that has anything to share, and then talk about our upcoming meeting schedule. So I turn it over to Erica for her presentation.
All right, awesome. So I just to get a feel for things, how many people have heard about this report so far? Okay, that is great news. So I'm really going to focus on our findings then and what is going to be most relevant to you all. You can go ahead. Who's familiar with Parks and Trails New York? Okay, same hand. So that's good. I will just highlight that our major bike tours are coming up this summer. Next week is Cycle the Erie Canal. We'll be riding from Buffalo to Albany with 600 riders and finishing in Albany on Sunday, July 19th. If anyone wants to come out to Quackenbush Square that morning, we'll be having a party. It's a great celebration of cycling culture in the Capital Region. So I encourage you to come out and see what that's like. Or we can go ahead. So for this study, we partnered with several state agencies who were grateful to their support and funding and really buy-in to make this report successful. And we had a great research team. We partnered with Labella, who probably many of you all are familiar with. They brought a really great knowledge of New York State communities. And then the Institute for Transportation Research and Education at NC State was really our data people, our data team. And they've done analyses like this on the North Carolina trail systems, which was really a source of inspiration for our project. And then you all are probably familiar with Verity Engineering too. Lindsay Zefting played a big role in helping us analyze and gather the data for the trail visitation estimates. She was a great partner in this as well. And all the partners the Hudson River Valley Greenway collected data. We collected data on trail counts, and I think a couple of the other MPOs as well that we were able to put together to create these statewide trail estimates. So our goal was really to make sure that we were quantifying the impact of the Empire State Trail in a way that we could communicate as an advocacy tool and to our government, our state agencies, our legislators, making sure that everyone knows how valuable this asset was and going beyond the traditional economic like tourism impact to include health impacts and environmental impacts as well. So you all know about the Empire State Trail. It's statewide, but we can just like speed through these next few slides. It hits a ton of New York State, 26 different counties, 2 million residents located within a quarter mile of the trail. So it really is a big part of our civic infrastructure as a state. Oh, sorry, maybe that's in there twice. So we have the 3 different sections, and the Capital Region is really unique in that it kind of touches all of these. So I just described the different trail sections. Yeah, you can just go through them because I think you all are mostly familiar. And that's kind of how we analyzed looking at those 3 different legs. But basically, this project went pretty fast. We started last summer, collected data over the late summer and fall through visitor surveys and business surveys, analyzed the data in the spring, and just released it. So we used various types of surveys. Like I said, we had intercept surveys on the trail and then a more long form survey that allowed people to complete the survey at home. And that we split it up like that because it's harder to remember how much you spent or what you actually did on the trail once you've already returned, but we wanted to make sure we were capturing those people that were riding the trail end to end and might have done it earlier in the summer or at a different time during the year. This is just an overview of some of the research methods we used through our partners at Lavelle and NC State used. Our economic modeling tool was the InPlan input-output model, if you're familiar with that. Just the very standard economic impact analysis tool used for all different types of industries. And yeah, we used a lot. The foundation of the data of the study was the trail count data that our partners and us have been collecting for the better part of the last few decades. Yeah, I won't go into all of this. You can check out our research methods in our appendices on our website if you're more interested in knowing the nuts and bolts. So getting into the big picture economic impact studies, these are the numbers we just like want to shout from the rooftops that the Empire State Trail as a whole generates nearly $2 billion in economic impact for the state, seeing almost 10 million visitors every year to the trail. And it's making a big difference for our local and state tax revenues as well, to the tune of 206 million, going back to our governments to continue to invest in the trail. And it's generating a lot of jobs, nearly 10,000 jobs across the state. And so getting into kind of how we got to this, we found in our visitor survey that day trip trail users are spending about $30 a day. So that would just be anyone from the area or out of town that's just coming to do a ride on the trail. They'll spend money at restaurants, ice cream shops, breweries, bike shops, whatever they're coming to see. But that overnight trail users are really spending quite significant amounts of money in our state. And this is based off of those multi-day trips. So it's not $540 in one day. It's across the span of a trip, which is about 5 to 7 days. Spent on the Empire State Trail. We are also seeing businesses reflecting or understanding the benefit of the trail and investing back in those trail resources. So a couple things I want to leave you with are that for every dollar invested in the Empire State Trail, it returns over $5 back in sales revenue. So that's a pretty good return on investment. These are not just nice trails to have, but they return fivefold. And we also saw notably that the on-trail off-road sections of the Empire State Trail generated 4 times the economic impact of the off-road, or sorry, of the on-road. I know it gets like a little confusing, but trails generate more than roads is the lesson there. And for every mile of the Empire State Trail that was built, we see an estimated impact of $3.9 million in economic output. Oh, the formatting got a little weird, but no worries. This slide is just basically telling the story of the different segments of the trail. So you'll see that the Hudson River Valley, or the Hudson Valley Greenway Trail between New York City and Albany sees the most visits and generates the most impact. And a lot of that is attributed to the Manhattan River Greenway in New York City. It's the highest visited trail in the United States. So of course, it's going to have a big impact on these numbers. But as you can see, the other legs of the trails are still generating significant returns for New Yorkers. And also the other thing to take away from this slide is that the Champlain Valley Trail from Albany to Canada is clearly not having the same impact because a lot of it is off-road, or sorry, it's still on-road. And so there's a lot of work to be done there to fully activate that section. So now just a few minutes on the health and environmental benefits. So we were looking in our visitor survey at how people were using the trail for exercise. And we saw that 70% of respondents were engaging in over 1 hour of exercise per visit, meaning that Empire State Trail is a significant part of their daily activity. And we were able to calculate that that generated $78 million in health-related savings every year across the entire state. So it's easy to say, oh, the Empire State Trail is great for exercise, but when you have these numbers that yes, people are using it and maybe would not have exercised otherwise, we can use that in our advocacy. And then the environmental benefits we looked at, we used this GIS analysis to estimate the amount of carbon stored along the corridor in the natural buffer that exists along the trail system. And we found that 4.3 million metric tons of carbon were stored in those corridors, that those same trees were removing 78,000 metric tons every year, and that the trail was reducing vehicle miles traveled by 96 million miles every year. And that was determined by people that were not necessarily replacing trips on the trail, but they were, we asked them how far they would have gone if they didn't have the Empire State Trail to recreate or exercise on. And so it was that difference. They would have traveled like 30 miles further to a different park or trail. So this was saving those vehicle miles traveled. All right, so getting into what is going to be relevant for you guys is we were able to put together these county profiles. And so I pulled out the numbers for the 4 counties covered by CRTC today, starting with Albany County. And Albany has 24.5 miles of trail. The majority of that is off-road, but we do know that there are still some gaps, especially in Green Island. But that 24.5 miles of trails accounts for 636,000 visits to the trail every year, and generates $119 million for an economic output every year as well. A couple of other points to highlight are that 13.8 miles, so over half of the trail in Albany County passes through distressed communities. So it's reaching people that otherwise wouldn't have access to an outdoor recreational asset like the Empire State Trail, providing them with opportunities for recreation and transportation. And of course, contributing to those vehicle miles traveled reduction and those carbon savings. Schenectady County has a similar number of miles of trail passing through it, but nearly all of it is off-road. So that has developed over the last few years. We're really happy to see that the trail has advanced so much in Schenectady County, and it sees about 223,000 visits every year. So a little bit less than Albany County, generates a little bit less economic impact, but it's mostly because more of the trail is low density, passes through low density areas. And you'll see that in the legend that light green is medium density, and where there's no buffer, that's the density was too low to analyze. So then Rensselaer County, glad we have some folks from the county here today. You have 16.6 miles of trail. About 12 miles of that is off-road trail infrastructure. I think the biggest gap there is in the city of Rensselaer. It'd be great to improve those trail connections to get people to the start of the Albany Hudson Electric Trail. The impact is still pretty substantial, $33 million being generated, especially I would say on those trail side businesses. And a couple of those miles of trail serving distressed communities as well. And then finally, Saratoga County has 25 miles of trail route, but only 6 miles of off-road trail. So significant opportunities for getting more of that trail, more of the route of the trail onto an off-road path. But still generating $17.9 million and seeing 94,000 visits to that trail section every year. And while I'm on Saratoga County, I just want to highlight the village of Schuylerville, who was one of our trail towns a few years ago and has been making significant investments in improving the trail experience. They're one of our highlighted communities within the report of what it means to be actively embracing the outdoor recreation economy. They have installed bike racks in front of all of their businesses downtown through a community-led process, and they're really actively embracing adaptive recreation, recreation for all, and especially through efforts at Hudson Crossing Park. So we wanted to highlight them as a really stellar community. Even though they have only a couple miles of trail, they're definitely working on expanding that out. So just in conclusion, as you all know, trails are good for the economy, good for our health, and good for the environment. But now we actually have some numbers to put behind it. So I hope that they'll prove valuable for you all. The key data point that every dollar invested in the trail returns over $5 in economic output is one that we really hope to continue to use. And that investing in off-road protected trail infrastructure separated from cars generates significantly more benefits than when we just mark a roadway with a trail. So with that, I know I ran through that pretty fast, and Ethan's going to send out the link to the report page, which has the executive summary, the full report, the methodology appendices, and the county profile pages for your reference and download.
If folks want a physical copy of the report, they could.
You can,
get in contact with
we
you.
have, get in contact with me. We have copies of the executive summary right now that we have available to share, and you can swing by our office in downtown Albany, or we can find another way to get those to you.
Would you post the link as part of the minutes?
Yes, we'll include it in the minutes. All right, does anyone have any, I have a couple questions, but I'll go last. If anyone else has any questions first, yeah.
Yeah, just a comment on the previous slide, I love the rainbow. Out of the trail. That is so beautiful. The pot of gold, in fact, that's nice. Eric, I was just curious about the stressed communities, is that how's that?
That was defined by the Empire State Development. We were using moderately and severely distressed communities in our analysis as defined by ESD.
Okay. And the economic impact of on-road versus road, attributable largely to the Champlain section that's so on-road, and who wants to go there?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's that would be probably the biggest cause. And in some cases it's that they're going through significantly more rural areas too, so there just aren't as many businesses on those sections.
Right.
Whereas if there were an off-road trail, it might generate more business directly along the trail versus
Sure.
just like a highway.
Yeah. Thanks.
But check out the methodology too if you want to know more about that.
Yeah, no, I will, thank you.
Is there any discussion about some future connection with the rail trail? between Lake Placid and Tucker Lake?
Yeah, so PTNY is working on an advocacy report right now about kind of leveraging this data to advocate for a big statewide investment in the next generation of trail investments. So what corridors are exactly included in that, we're still working on, but I think we would love to see a way, whether we would love to see a route of the Empire State Trail that's more through the Adirondacks than along Lake Champlain. So that would be a really long-term project, but would probably leverage some Saratoga trails that would go up and like maybe connect to the Adirondack Rail Trail. The problem with that is that it would really connect through Utica.
Yeah,
But that's being used by the tourism train at the moment. and
okay, so the
it's-
rails aren't available.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so at the moment.
Cause
they're-
that would be ideal.
Yeah, and this was the compromise that was made at this time, to not, to give everyone a little bit of what they wanted.
Talking about connections, coming up relatively soon, the Livingston Avenue Bridge
Mhm.
connection will be done.
Yes,
It's worth doing trail counts there from the very beginning. And it's worth emphasizing how much additional travel that will generate.
totally.
And that may give a boost to other connections. For example, the connection recommended with the I-787 project along Route 2
Mhm.
Waterville to Troy. These connections are very important and generate additional activity on other parts of the trail.
Yeah. I will say, to your point on the Livingston Avenue Bridge, we had been working with state parks and HRBG, Andy Beers, I don't know what hat he was wearing in that, to see if they could incorporate a trail counter in that capital project as a permanent installation, because we really should be doing that more consistently. Whenever we build a trail, it should include a trail counter. It's such an insignificant part of the capital costs. So just thinking about that in those, when we put out those calls for proposals, but we're hoping that trail counts will be included, and if not, hopefully the trail counter program through you all can be used there, and the official route of the Empire State Trail will be rerouted to use the Livingston Avenue Bridge.
We have a question from Ethan Warren at CMTA who asked if there's any info about trip purpose split, mainly recreational or commuting.
We didn't have that in this this survey, but we're hoping to build on what we were able to study in this study, and hopefully, tackle some of those other questions.
Two questions. The 10 million visitors, do we have any idea of? Is that one person visiting 10 million times, or is it 10 million individual people?
It's every trip,
Right, but
yeah, so.
is there any effort to try to sort that out?
mm,
I mean, it'd be nice to know what the constituency is here.
Yeah,
Is it 1 million people? Is it 5 million people?
right, I'm gonna write that down. I don't think we have that breakdown because we were using the trail counters as the basis for that.
I
Yeah.
imagine it's probably a difficult thing to do, but you could have had some surveys or samples that might give you an
Right.
indication, at least in, say, an
Yeah.
urban environment that.
Yeah,
You ask people, how many times do you come out here or something? I don't know what you did, but
yeah.
it would be nice to know how many people
versus just how many trips.
visit.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a breakdown of how many day trip users versus overnight users, which is like kind of like gets to the locals versus visitors, but a little
Well,
bit
I
different.
just, from a
Yeah.
advocacy point of view, knowing the size of the constituency
Mhm.
is helpful.
Yeah.
And,
Good
You
point.
know, the other question, which is actually much more difficult.
Okay.
Yes.
See if I can answer.
So you've hinted that, the on-road, off the trails are much more popular.
Mhm.
You have a higher economic return. The question I have is, what is the value of, completing a link between two off-road sections?
Mhm.
So, if we're looking, I mean, it's $1 to $2 million a mile for a trail, but a connection might be a whole lot more per mile.
Mhm.
And justifying that,
You mean the
Need-
cost would be more?
you need to
than-
know
Yeah.
how much leverage you're getting. So if the two segments on either side see, say, a 30% increase because you connected them, then you could maybe make an estimate of, okay, we're willing to pay $5 million a mile
Right.
to connect these because of the impact on the surrounding trails. So that would be a very difficult to tease, but whoever's doing your trail visitation estimates and stuff might be able to say, this is.
As we think about closing more of these gaps, if we're able to get those numbers, like what increase we see on either end, like I think we could
Well, I mean,
maybe
you have-
tease something out.
Yeah, I don't
for
know
the
whether it's
future,
part of
yeah.
this or not, or whether
Yeah.
that data is in there, but because I don't know the details, but
Yeah.
if you have data before and after a linkage closes,
Mhm.
then you could start to say, okay, well, this is the change we see,
Yeah.
and our total visitors go up and our repeat visitors go up, and therefore closing the linkage has got this value.
Right. We did try and do that, not in this area, but with the gap in the Empire or the Erie Canalway Trail in Syracuse that was closed for a long time. It was really hard to navigate the city streets, but now there's an off-road connection through a lot of the city. And so we looked at Camillus and DeWitt on either side of the city of Syracuse, but there was so many environmental factors, like the length of the project was so long and it happened in COVID. So we saw like these big peaks that had nothing to do with the connection. So we were hoping to get better data out of that. So, yeah, definitely something to consider for future projects.
One thing you don't have in there is the increase of the value of real estate along the trail.
We did do a little analysis. You'll see in the report that it's very intensive data analysis to gather all that data and then really look at it. But we did think that there was a 14% increase in property value for single family homes along the trail, which is we did not find that same figure for other types of residences.
Along with that, real estate issue, way back when we were trying to establish, rail trails, in this area and in Rochester, both, I think, Rochester area, Monroe County, there was an initial, concern that what happens when rails come near to my house and other people will be coming and using it. And that generated some effort to keep track of these things. And over a relatively short amount of time, these same property owners that were expressing concerns were actually putting in a separate gate
Yeah.
to their newly constructed fence that would allow access to the trail next to them. There were these issues that
Mhm.
moved this from a negative to being a,
Positive.
yes, I'm selling my property and we're on a trail.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's worth keeping track of, and particularly in those missing sections that were mentioned before, it's worth getting a piece about it that shows that in a relatively short time, you're not actually getting vandals coming in, you're getting your children
And
going out onto the trail.
And I would suggest in some cases, the anecdotal stories are more powerful than having to worry about collecting data over a number of years.
And that kind of brings me, if anyone has those stories or specific people that you can think of that wouldn't mind being interviewed. We would love to capture those stories and be able to communicate them. So let me know.
Wait, I mean, I know it's different, but the rail trail, that just opened. I mean, there's businesses coming in and revitalizing as a result of that trail. I mean, it's been a real shot in the arm for Tupper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which needed it badly.
Yeah, they're gonna be doing their own study on some sort of impact of the Adirondack Rail Trail coming up in the next few years. That'll be really exciting to have too.
As in the Utah, Remsen, Saranac Lake, or as in the Saratoga Springs to Hollis?
The first one,
Okay.
yeah, Lake Placid to Tucker.
Do you know if PTNY or anyone else has a tool where you can see which segments of the Empire State Trail are off road versus on road? Like those county profiles might be like helpful to show on there. Not to make your GIS person do more work, but to show like where those off or on road connections still are, since those are like good spots to target for investment.
That doesn't exist. Well, I mean, it exists in the form of the interactive map of the Empire State Trail. You can, it's a public facing map.
So,
Uh,
sorry, to
yeah.
interrupt, but I was just thinking, so if you're thinking about the segment to segment look, is there a way to like take a look at a segment and be like, here's the loss that's occurring because there's off-road.
That would be
or
really
on-road,
cool. Yeah, we
Like, so
don't,
we could,
right.
get little marginal wins by doing this. or,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I'm gonna write that down as a potential advocacy tool.
And then speaking of advocacy tools, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've heard Dylan mention that you guys are working on a tool that folks will be able to use to analyze the economic impact of their own trails.
Yeah, that will be coming. I don't have a lot to share right now, but there will be a tool available that takes into account a lot of the factors that went into this study. It'll be an Excel spreadsheet that we'll send to you guys or whoever has a trail they want to look at, and we'll put the numbers in to, different categories of things like what's the population density, how long is the trail, if you have any trail counts, things like that. How many businesses are along the trail, and we'll be able to create an estimated economic impact for your trail segment or trail system. But still, we might be rolling that out over a slower timeline than immediately.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. That'll be coming up.
Awesome. Anyone else have any questions for Erica? And if people have questions afterwards, they can reach out to you.
Reach out to me, reach out through the PTNY website, ptny@ptny.org is our general email, easier to remember, and it'll get to one of us. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
you
thank you
guys.
so much, Erica.
I probably should
Yes.
leave. Unfortunately, yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing the updates for the rest of the agenda, but
They'll be on
keep an
YouTube.
eye on the, that's true. I'll keep an eye on the minutes.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Erica.
Thank you all, it was so
Thank
good
you.
to see you. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Talk to you later. So now to move into our discussion items, these probably won't take too long. First one is a summary of the Walk Bike Roll New York 2026 symposium that just took place at the beginning of June. Myself and I know a couple other folks here in the room were able to attend that. So I just wanted to talk real quick about some of the topics. The keynote speech was really interesting. It was from the founder of Shredders MTB, which is an organization started up in Saratoga County that their goal is to get kids interacting and using bikes early on through school to promote both like just an active lifestyle, but also to help kids who might not have access to bikes through their home life learn how to use bikes and get very active. It's a bit of a mountain biking focused organization. They go out and ride lots of trails, and they've slowly expanded from just Saratoga. I know there's a chapter in Albany, Schenectady, a couple other spots around the state, but it was very interesting. I'm hoping that at one of our future ATAC meetings, we'll get Anna, who founded Shredders, to come and give a similar presentation about the work that Shredders has been doing to this group, because it's a very cool program. There's also an interactive session that I thought was really interesting. It was called Access for All, and it was demonstrating how folks with different sorts of impairments and disabilities had issues navigating, our infrastructure the way it's set up right now. So they had, various goggles that showed different levels of blindness, or they would just like blindfold you and give you a cane to try and walk across like a little crossing that they made inside in the conference center. And when I did that, I ran into the wall, because it's so hard to navigate, when there's no, audible signals, when there's not good on-ground infrastructure that, gives sort of like a physical guidance. They, had wheelchairs there for people to try. They had, mobility restricting devices, so that it was as if you had, just some sort of like muscular issue, that made it hard to move. So you were to try and cross the little crossing as quickly as you could, and it was not very fast, not as long as most crossings give you for time. So that was really eye-opening, a very fun, and interesting interactive session to kind of get some of that, physical experience that can be hard for people who don't live with, disabilities, kind of put you in their shoes. So that was very cool. There were a lot of talks about, trail planning, obviously, because, trails are such a good, safe, facility for all sorts of users. One thing that was mentioned several times, I really thought was, or I thought was interesting that I hadn't heard before, was people using the term legible when describing, trail planning and movement, because, even if everything is safe, if it's a great facility, but people don't understand how and where they're supposed to use it, they don't know where to go, they don't understand, different transitions between trails, how you're supposed to, interact with other users on the trail, then, the physical infrastructure itself, can be, it's still obviously beneficial, but making sure that folks understand how to use it and how to get on and off of it, just makes it more accessible and easier to use. So I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't heard, people use that term legible when talking about, a trail planning before. There's also talk about how parks and trails are, sort of inherently connected. They're great, spots for trails to start and stop, but they're also good places for people to rest. They're easy places for, folks to be first introduced to trails. So trails are great for getting place to place, but parks are, fantastic to have along trails. I think that's pretty common sense for, everyone who's in this room, but, it was nice that there was that sort of emphasis. And then there was, talk about planning for, you need to plan for the most frequent user of your trail, because they're the ones who are gonna have the most volume, but you also need to plan for the most vulnerable users on your trail. You need to make sure that, all the infrastructure is going to accommodate folks who, have different levels of ability and skill, because, we don't wanna be excluding people from, getting outside and using our, trail and other, pedestrian and cyclist focused infrastructure. The plenary talk, the closing talk, was about e-bikes. That's kind of the hot topic in the bike, community at the moment. And a lot of it is what we've heard, here before about how, there's issues with non-compliance and, vehicles that, don't really follow the different, levels of e-bike classification. There's, vehicles that are what are now being called e-motos, which, kind of look and act similarly to e-bikes, but are often a lot faster, a lot heavier. So one of a quote that one of the speakers gave at the plenary talk that I really liked was that this growth without guide rails is not progress. If we're just having this expansion of e-bike, infrastructure, which I think most of us would agree is a good thing, is allowing people to get places easier that they weren't before. It just makes it so much easier to get a long distance and replace a car trip with a bicycle trip. But if we're not, proactive in making sure that, these are being used safely in our communities, they can present real dangers and they can hurt people. So it's really a balancing trick, trying to promote people to transition from, single occupancy vehicles to things like e-bikes, while also making sure people are using them in a safe way and that they're, not having a dangerous impact on our communities. And to go along with that, they mentioned that, there's an act currently in Congress called the Safe Speeds Act, which is really aimed at bringing, e-bikes throughout the country into, kind of a standards across the board, so that they're more easy to, use as you travel throughout the country. Because right now there's different classes of the classes of e-bikes are not the same everywhere you go. And where you can use them isn't the same. There's no standard definition for what an e-moto is opposed to an e-bike. So this act that's been introduced in Congress is aiming to address some of this gray space that's developing as this technology is emerging. The last time I checked on one of the congressional bill tracker websites, the bill had still just been introduced to Congress. It hadn't had much discussion yet. I think when I checked, it said it had in its current stage like a 4% chance of passing. So hopefully that gets some work, and if not in this session of Congress, at least will lay a good foundation for us to hopefully get some sort of standardization for e-bikes moving
You
forward.
know if that bill has anything to do with, sometimes they look like small e-bikes, sometimes they're just motorized scooters that, yeah, I mean, there's kids as, there's like 8 zooming through my neighborhood at 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's just terrifying.
Yeah, and in New York State, they shouldn't be doing that. You're supposed to be 16 years old before you ride an e-bike in New York State. So I think that goes along with that e-moto classification, where it's really trying to identify, what is an actual like assisted e-bike that is primarily still an active transportation tool that allows people to extend their range, extend their speed to a safe speed, as opposed to these devices that are really being used for recreation or exceeding speeds that are safe. So I think that is one of the things that the bill is trying to clarify.
Ethan, I'm trying to remember, did they offer any crash data that differentiate? I mean, intuitively, we think higher speed, higher severity, but
Yeah, I don't remember if there was like a wide pool of data that was presented. They did provide, one of the speakers talked about a recent incident down in New York City where someone was on what is essentially an e-moto, a type of e-scooter that was like 60 pounds. It advertised that it could get up to like 80 miles an hour in 6 seconds, riding it right through downtown in the city, and crashed into someone who was on just a regular bicycle, a manual bicycle, and killed both of them
Yeah.
almost instantly.
oh, on the bridge.
On the
Yeah,
bridge.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I can't
There was something
remember.
on some sidewalks, if I remember too, that they had in New York City where it was somebody with an e-bike or whatever.
Yeah, they're having increasing incidents, especially in the city where it's so
Yeah, people use the
So
sidewalks
compact.
because there's
Yeah.
not safe areas sometimes to go. So.
Yeah.
In terms of legislation, I believe New York State, Class 1, which is the pedal assisted bicycle, tends to be self-limiting to about 20 miles an hour speed, which is pretty much the same as a good bicyclist can make with a little bit of tailwind maybe.
Yeah.
So it is worth emphasizing that keeping it to that, and it's easy to identify because you have a pedal, you need to pedal to keep the bicycle going, except for downhills, of course. And a policeman can identify that versus a throttle assisted bicycle, which can be classified differently and can actually sometimes achieve quite high speeds.
Yeah. Yeah, nowhere in New York State is a throttle assisted vehicle legally supposed to go over 20 miles an hour. Also, that's the class 2. Obviously, they do very frequently and they're oftentimes advertised as such. And in my anecdotal experience, those throttle assisted vehicles are the ones that most communities are having issues with. Those are the ones that are causing a lot of the crashes. Those are the ones that are, it's a lot easier to go really fast when you just have to hold down the throttle, you don't
Yeah,
have to
right,
pedal.
exactly.
Yeah.
What, Ivan, NYBC has done some enforcement
Yes.
education. Are they treating the e-bike issue at all? It's interesting because I know, like the League of American Bicyclists sort of gave up on the enforcement. In New York State, it's engineering, enforcement and education,
As far as I understand it, we are supporting the class 1 bicycles being used on trails because we're anxious to have class 1 bicyclists also be available and more prominent as part of the mixed traffic use.
yeah,
For the most part, we are mixed traffic users. When I was a commuter, I was on road shoulders where they existed,
mhm,
and that's where you might find the e-bikes.
sure,
In contrast, a bicycle that has a much greater speed and sometimes a greater weight as well is not all that welcome in the same space. Either on a trail or along the same road shoulders that's being used by a handicapped and
right,
also pedestrians, all kinds of other uses.
mhm,
So good road shoulders is something that we would have as the construction element that is a high priority. I'm looking at Valerie for
the
transportation.
engineering part of it, yeah, yeah,
And along with the enforcement part of it, to have class 1 be recognized as a valid bicycle user.
mhm.
Well, picking up on the education piece, do we know if there's anything that's come out state level? To really start to educate children on the dangers of this stuff? I mean, not that it's gonna necessarily keep them away from it, but at least start maybe sending out something to their parents. Parents are buying these things for their kids. And, I mean, like, the guy up the street bought his 10-year-old an e-bike for Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's what they do. And there's 2 young girls who zip around my neighborhood. That's the 8-year-old and probably the 10-year-old. And I'm like, holy shit. I mean, it's just, they're just lucky they haven't been hit.
Mhm.
Because they're not following traffic rules. It's a busy street and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, one of the big things that was talked about at the conference was that point of sale education, especially for the parents, is really important. Because when I was a 10-year-old, if you got me an e-bike that could go 30 miles an hour, I'd be zipping around. Exactly. But my parents would not have purchased that for me if they'd realized how unsafe it was and that it was illegal for me to be using it. So that parent education, I think, is really key, and the state is working on figuring out how to increase that sort of point of sale education to try and prevent parents from making these unsafe decisions for their children. But it was a very, very interesting conference. I think that they'll be putting out some summaries from the conference if they haven't already. So I'm happy to try and give people more information if they're interested in any of the topics up there. I can try and connect you with any of the speakers from that conference. But it was a good time. It's every other year, so the next one will be in 2028. Location still to be determined. I'd highly recommend that anyone interested in active transportation attend the conference next year. The next discussion item, real quick, our 2026 Trail Count Program report has been finalized. This one took us a little longer this year to get out, just we've been busy around this office. It's not up on our website quite yet. It's going to get sent out in our newsletter this month, but if you want a copy of it now, you can email me. It'll probably be up on the website by the time the minutes go out for this meeting, so I'll include a link to that trail count report at the time.
By early August, you think?
Oh yeah, by probably in the next week or two.
Okay.
It'll be very soon. We counted 8 sites in 2025, one of which didn't have great data because the trail counter was stolen like 3 days after we put it up, which then also decreased our ability to continue doing counts for the rest of the year. So we're down to 2 trail counters, which we have started deploying for 2026 now. So we've got a couple sites in mind that we're going to be counting, but if anyone has a particular location they would like counted, please let us know. Last year, we got a lot of requests in the Albany County area and then a couple up in the town of Clifton Parks, we're trying to expand a little more. We have some out in the city of Troy right now, and we're looking at some spots in Schenectady and other spots in Saratoga. So we're hoping to geographically expand a little more. We're really focusing on recounting sites that we've counted in the past, so we can compare how trail use is changing over time. But if you have any new or old spots that you'd like counted, just shoot me an email and we'll work with you to get it into our schedule. The discussion item that wasn't on the agenda, the Hudson River Valley Greenway just opened its Conservancy Trail Grant Program for the summer of this year. This is a program that they do twice a year, every year with different amounts, but it's for trail planning, design, and or construction. The maximum award for any individual project is up to $250,000 for construction. There's different thresholds. I think it's like $75,000 for planning. There's a couple of thresholds depending on what you're trying to do. But they specifically mention on their website, on the grant page, that they're placing an emphasis on connections to the Empire State Trail, so that ties well into the presentation we just saw from Erica about the importance of making these connections. So HRBG is really trying to focus on helping with those connections. They are 50-50 matching grants, and they said that it's in kind or cash. So not sure what their documentation requirements would be for in kind, but imagine it's not too bad. The application window just opened up this Monday, and it will run until for about a month, until early August. And like I mentioned, it's a biannual grant program, so the next grant window will be in January or February of 2027. So this one really snuck up on me. I imagine some other folks might not have heard about it beforehand, but if you want to get ready for the next grant window, they said they're expecting that to open, like I said, January, February of next year. So the link for the grant program is just right up there on the slide. We're also going to include that in our newsletter for this month, and I'll probably send a separate email to the ATAC mailing list in the next day or two, specifically mentioning this grant program for anyone who's interested in it. Last discussion item real quick, as always, our update on our regional planning initiatives. Not much has changed from last month. We have our typical linkage programs ongoing. I think that all of them have, it looks like we have the two newer ones, the Aiken Ave and the County Route 76 study in the town of Stillwater and city of Rensselaer. Those are still developing their scopes of work, so hopefully we'll get those out for consultant bids soon. The other ones are all working along at their expected paces. And then for technical assistance, we're getting caught up on most of our technical assistance programs. We have two new ones, one for the city of Watervliet, one for city of Schenectady, both of which we're looking at kind of like signal and intersection warrant analyses. But other than that, our Texas program is pretty light right now. And then we have a couple of our other large initiatives, probably the most noteworthy of which is our Capital Region Resiliency Improvement Plan, which is going to be a plan focused on improving the infrastructure resilience throughout the region. This area's flooding is typically the largest issue, so there's going to be a big emphasis on that. It says up there that the status as of a week ago was they're reviewing proposals. I believe they've selected a consultant. I think it's ICF Engineering will be conducting that study, so that'll be getting going soon. If you're interested in participating in that study in any way, feel free to reach out to me or to Andrew Tracy in our office. He's the project manager, and I'm sure we'll find a way that we can plug you into the study advisory committee or some way to get you involved with that study. That is all of the updates that I have. So now is the time where you share your updates with us. Participant updates. Anyone in person have anything that they are working on, excited about, opportunities that they need help with, anything to share?
Thanks. The kickoff for the feasibility study for the Freeman's Bridge to Balsam Lake was done. The engineers Verity. And the second thing, I was attending a Lincoln public review in Half Moon, and we were primarily the sort of the southwest corner where I-87, Clifton Park, Mohawk River, and they have a bunch of trails that are not connected there.
Hmm.
And one of the things I looked at was connecting along I-87 because they have problems. Any case, they listed that as not feasible. And there are some, I'll say, mechanical engineering issues associated with it. But I asked them, why is this not feasible? And they basically said, well, because New York State DOT would be completely uncooperative. And that doesn't really seem appropriate. They have a lot of right of way there. It would be hard pressed to get somebody leaving the highway to hit someone in the far edge of it.
They also have some authority to utilize, highway corridors, along a contingent,
I don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are trails along interstates in lots of places, including New York State. But
Sure.
I thought it was unfortunate that the engineer basically said, we can't consider this option because we will get no cooperation. It's a dead on arrival at DOT, and I think that's probably a bad thing.
No, I agree. Fortunate.
something worth confirming. I would submit, yeah.
Well, I
What's the basis-
I
what's the
suggested that
basis
they
for
maybe
that?
go back and double
Yeah,
check that.
yeah, good idea.
But yeah, it's a reasonable engineering firm. They had several engineers there and they all gave the same opinions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't that
Doesn't mean it's not just one person putting their foot down. It's easy.
I'm just bringing it up. That
Some
that
people
this
just
is a
favor-
takeaway that in an area where they're constrained by real estate and they have a continuous right of way option that could, the trail could be 150 feet from the highway.
Yeah,
That they felt that it was something they couldn't consider because a DOT would say no.
Interesting.
I'm just the messenger.
Yes.
yeah.
Come on,
but-
tell me the study again, what's the,
I'll have to get you the,
no, just what's the, I'm,
it's Town of Half Moon linkage study. I don't know the exact name, but it's for the
okay.
southwest corner of the town, connecting essentially Route 9 over to Clifton Park and Crescent Road areas.
I think for the Empire State Trail. I think they are on part of I-90's right away for a short
Oh,
distance.
absolutely, they absolutely are.
So it's like, if they can do it for I-90, I don't know why they can't do it for I-87.
This is not a safety or engineering problem. This is a political problem.
Yeah, obviously.
That's for the
I'm
linkage study
Raising
that,
this, there is this political problem out there.
that's for the linkage study that we're doing for Town Half Moon, is that right? Is that the linkage study you're talking about? That's the one that we're doing, or is it a different one? So I think we're doing one up there.
No.
Different one. You're
Oh,
doing one up on
Doing
County
the-
Route 109,
right.
which is sort of a similar, but that's more of a complete streets kind of thing. This is actually trying to figure out how to get multi-use paths to connect the Route 9 area and the Clifton Park area.
And who's doing the study?
I got. Give me your email.
Okay, all right.
I'll go back to my previous statement, if you can't get the multi-use path. Getting well-done road shoulders may be acceptable. And, well-done, well-marked road shoulders,
Yeah, that was among their options.
um,
But as Erica will tell you, people would rather not do that.
Well,
They'd
Yeah, it's
rather not.
more of an economic impact.
But the things way people are driving lately that I've been seeing people that drive from the middle, you think they're drunk, I think they're texting. And they drive from the middle, they're bracing the middle line and then they go over to the shoulder and it's like. So in a way, I don't blame people because people are not looking at the road when they're driving.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the data shows that it's much safer to have a separated facility of some kind.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What would be the process, and I know there's a lot of groans. My background, I worked in bureaucracies my entire career. My skill set was not taking no for an answer. Okay, basically, and just trying to work it around. What I wanted to do is get a process started to move toward complete streets, starting with Route 9 in Colony, and see what, and how do I get that even to begin to happen?
Yeah, you know, there's different routes you could go through. The main route that would be coming through us would be to have the town, either, you know, the highway department, planning department, someone apply to us to do either a technical assistance, which is a smaller scope of work, or a full linkage study focused on complete streets. We've done a number of those throughout the region. I think the most recent we did was down in Castleton on Hudson. And that's our main process where, you know, we would then work with the town to hire an engineering firm who would do an analysis of the corridor, do public input and develop recommendations. You know, the town could do their own process if they wanted to. You know, there are a number of advocacy groups throughout the region who have done their own studies, places like Capitol Streets, or I don't know if Walkable Albany would do something outside of City of Albany's limits, but who have connections and who will apply for grants themselves to be able to do a privately run study. So those are the main mechanisms that I would know to kind of get that ball
Okay,
rolling.
given that right now I would characterize the likelihood of the town initiating request as approaching zero. Who would I get in touch with at Capitol Streets?
I can get you the contacts
Okay.
for Capitol Streets. Yeah. Yes, as a former town planning planner, I know how difficult it can be to get that sort of thing
Yeah,
off the ground.
yeah, I mean, it's just, town doesn't want streetlights installed because they have to maintain them.
Yeah, the maintenance is usually what we hear the most from the municipalities, which is unfortunate. So, yeah, I'll get you some contacts after
Okay, that'd be
after the
great,
meeting.
thank you.
John Mitchell, says he would also start with Route 9,
Okay,
but that's sort of like complete streets, another member of the public. Okay, anyone else in the room have any updates or anything they'd like to share? Anyone online have anything they'd like to chime in with?
John Mitchell would like to chime in.
Yeah, go ahead, John. I'll pull you up on our.
John
main screen.
John I advocate for bike pedestrian trails for the whole Capital District, but especially Half Moon and Mechanicville. And I've mentioned this in other previous meetings that I'd love to see the South Central Avenue from if anyone knows how 146 ends in Mechanicville at the bottom of the hill. Hudson River Road comes in from the right, which is a bike trail. And I'd love to see that we have 4 lanes of road. You don't need 4 lanes of road. We should have a bike pedestrian path on the north side of that road. And last couple of weeks, I started thinking, well, how about that intersection, man? That's a crazy intersection there. And hey, lo and behold, there's a really good engineering solution to make a roundabout down there. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's talk of industrialization along the river, and maybe they can throw that in as a okay, yeah, we'll let you put that factory in there, but you're going to put a traffic circle here. So Valerie got the details, and Ethan got the details, but I continue to make myself heard.
Yeah, and that's the only way we can really get projects approved, by having advocates continually advocating for them. So really appreciate your continued work trying to make that safer connection over there.
Likewise, thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, as always, if there's anything we can do to assist you, just reach out to me and we'll do what we can. Anyone else online have any updates for us this time? Going once, going twice. All right, Then the last thing that I have for us is our upcoming meeting schedule. We only have one more meeting scheduled for 2026. That's currently scheduled to be October 21st, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. Like I said, I'm hopeful that we'll get feature presentation about shredders at that meeting, but we'll see if we can get that to pan out or not. Hopefully by the the October meeting, I'll have at least tentative dates for 2027 meetings, just so everyone can get those on their schedule. Other than that, thank you all for coming, and I'll hope to see you next time. Thanks everyone online.